Sunday. Good evening and welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Happy to be here. This is our first show in February. This year seems to be going by quick. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice right now instead of playback, then you're not watching the Super Bowl. This is the first year that Glenn lives in Australia, and Glenn's like, "You guys watching the Super Bowl?" And this year I did not, was not even aware of it. So I didn't know who was even in it. And so that's interesting. Having been a recovered sports fan, I was very much into football, but American football, so not so much anymore. Yeah, you have to make the distinction when you've got an Australian on the panel because they call it football, and there can be some kind of irritation with they would say that American football is not football. They had it first, so they had football first, so they get to call it football. I guess we should call it something else.
We call it pigskin throwing.
Right, pigskin throwing, yeah. And we call what they do soccer, but that's not what they call it. So anyway, tonight's topic is going to be Revelation, learning the truth, and we'll get into that in just a second. Before I do that, I will introduce the panel. You know them, you love them, starting with my beautiful wife, who I just love more and more each day. Jen.
Hey. I have a hard time living up to these introductions.
You don't have to live up to my love. I either love you or I don't love you. You don't have to live up to anything.
Oh, it's good to be here with everybody, and I had forgotten about the Super Bowl as well. So hopefully we'll still get some people coming in, but maybe more playback listening than normal.
Oh, there you go.
So it's good to be here, guys. So wonderful to be here. I'm really looking forward to tonight's topic.
Well, Jaylyn asked, did it start? Now, I just saw her pop in. Are you guys able to hear us? So we have Stephanie, Ann, and Celine. So just let us know if you can hear us. Everything looks good on my end, but just let us know. Okay, so Stephanie. Celine says mediocre bowl. Yeah, that's true.
That sounds delicious.
Okay, I think it has started. So mediocre bowl, yeah. It's like
sounds like something they'd serve at Chipotle.
Bean dip. Bean dip to me would be a mediocre bowl.
Just,
yeah, like bean dip.
Just beans.
Not a huge fan of the bean dip.
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Also, we have our illustrious producer and our friend, Glenn from Australia. Glenn, say hello to the people, sir.
Hi, everyone. And I have a special guest listener tonight. My lovely wife, Sandra, is listening.
Yay! Hey, Sandra.
Hello, Sandra.
Hello.
Yeah. So she's in the other room listening. I don't know if she can hear this, but we'll find out at some point.
Say hi to Coco for us, Sandra.
We better be on our best behavior then if Sandra's listening.
Or our worst
That's
behavior.
what I thought. I gotta pull my head right in. No more. I'm not going to be taking her down tonight.
That's good.
Thanks.
Well, we've got a great broadcast for you, and we're going to get into that. I really enjoyed the broadcast last week. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, so it'd be the one right before this one. And this is broadcast number 2 in a series of shows written by Glenn, does the write-ups, and we appreciate them very much.
Yes.
So before we get on the write-up, there's about 6 people in the chat so far. And so, Jen, if you'd like to say hello to who we have here.
Yes, definitely. Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie. Good to see you. We've got Celine. We have Jaylyn. Hey, Jaylyn. Glenn. Am I not seeing some people?
It says there's 6, but maybe not everyone's in the chat. It says 8, and I'm not counting us. So
yeah. Cool.
That's okay. Cool. Mims actually had come earlier and left a message for us. Said they can't join.
Janet's here. Hey, Janet. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Hello, Janet. Hope you're doing well. All right. So as people come in, as we see them, we'll try to say a quick hello to them. And again, as usual, well, I don't have to. Most of the people here do what they need to do anyway, just having conversations in the chat. If you do have any questions that you would like me to read, try to highlight them if you can. Of course, we are looking at the chat, so if you forget to do that, we may come across it. You just guarantee that I can see it. If more people are in here, it's a little bit more difficult. But
yeah, would you want them to put it in all caps if they have a question?
Yeah.
Or want us to share something?
Yeah, or at True Story Live where it highlights it, where I can see it. That'd be good too. Like I said, we'll be looking anyway, but it just makes it easier for us. Okay, as I said, tonight's topic is Revelation, Learning the Truth. Week 2, the process of reflection continues. Meantime, what has one discovered? For Anonymous, now renamed ST, it's a double-edged sword. When one commits to exploration and learning, is this sailing in calm waters? More often than not, it's rough waters because all of a sudden revelation can be. What I believed was love was hate. What I believed was normal was mistreatment. Contradictions everywhere. To have that revealed has to be a huge shock in my book. Learning the truth is one thing. Accepting that truth is another. How can any of us know what others endure, what thoughts they have? That's why we so appreciate ST telling her story. It's a huge wake-up call for all of us. Tonight's show is Revelation, the precursor to resurrection. Learning the truth, and the link is in the description. Please give it a listen if you get a chance. Synth pads with chiming bells and low brass set, a mysterious yet warm intro, swelling into strings and futuristic pulses, drum accents, and serious brass. The back end turns to a slow-burning heroic theme with full hybrid orchestra and bold choir. I would agree with that, by the way.
Yeah.
I listened to it. So what is revelation? For this show, revelation is discovery, self-discovery. It's a process of examining one's reflections and being honest with oneself about what one finds. Last week, we mentioned conditioning, a set pattern of words and actions infused into one's mind as an only option for existence. It's easy to see why this becomes generational, the continuance of a cycle. We are all adaptive beings in some way. We do what we need to do in situations, particularly when survival is on the line. That being said, ST will confirm that she has indeed come to some conclusions from her reflections. These are outlined later for open discussion. No matter how we look at these different issues, it always seems to come back to the basics of love, truth, authenticity, self-esteem, value systems, etc. If negative ideals are forced upon a person for a so-called keeping the peace, where does that really leave one? I suggest it's the loneliest wilderness. Perhaps you think differently. In the context of self-learning, a focus on relationships, ST's story continues. As I reflect back on what has gone before, I can see that I could have done things differently. I learned that I have worth and value and should be treated with utmost respect. I learned that I have a right to voice my opinions without fear of punishment. I learned that when I speak the truth, I cannot make another person believe me. Wow. I learned that setting healthy boundaries tells people where they stand with me. I learned that only I can speak for me. Nobody else has the right to speak for me. I learned to not allow another person to control my life. I learned to not give in to temptation to change myself in exchange for love. I learned to not be in a relationship without each person loving themselves. Wow, that's a big one. I learned to not be in a relationship where trust is lacking and my words are not believed. I learned to not waste my energy on a person who I know will exhaust and hurt me. I learned to not be obliged to justify my actions to anyone. I learned to not require permission from anyone to speak to whomever I choose. I learned that it is not acceptable to be spoken to in a hurtful and degrading manner. Who turns around a lifetime in a couple weeks? Nobody I know, that's for sure. I saw these quotes. They resonated. Quote, people don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something which confirms what they already believe, even if it is a lie. Abhijit Singh. Quote, be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter. Those who don't, and those who matter don't mind. Bernard Barash. Next week in Resurrection, we ask, how might we turn cycles around, amend one's mindsets and subsequent actions? Is it even possible to turn around? How might we change? What does one have to do to facilitate change? What guidelines can we use to assess our progress? In my opinion, love is unconditional. There's no requirement for any person to earn love. To anyone experiencing a connection not freely offered or given, please consider that this is decidedly not love. Final word tonight goes to ST. I do not have to accept any choices given to me. The only choice needed to be made is people can say what they wish to say respectfully, or we will not continue to have any more conversations. Wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah, great stuff. I read it before, but reading it like that, it just always puts another punch on them, at least for me. Yeah, it's wow. Okay. Say hello to Nathan Gruber, who popped in while I was reading the intro there. Hello, Nathan. Glad you're here.
Hey, Nathan.
And anyone else that comes in, we will say hello to them. All right. All righty. So this is a little bit different than last week. So let me see if we want to go to where the questions are. So wherever I see a question mark, of course, we've got it highlighted for this show. Revelation is discovery, self-discovery. It's a process of examining one's reflections and being honest with oneself about what one finds. Okay, so we'll go to ST's reflections. Is that a good idea? Is that what we want to do, guys?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go to the first comment is, as I reflect back on what has gone before, I can see that I could have done things differently. I just want to comment on this. This is part of why reflecting is so good and why looking at yourself and examining your own behavior is so helpful. You can see what things work and what things don't work and be able to move forward in a different way. And so I applaud Stephanie for being able to do this, and also, again, for sharing this with us. It does take some courage to do that.
Yeah.
I hope that she's gotten nothing but positive feedback thus far for her sharing, and she certainly is appreciated here. So thank you for sharing, Stephanie, and thank you for being here. Okay, number one, I learned that I have worth and value and should be treated with utmost respect. I suppose we could spend a lot of time on each one of these because that's a big one. How many people don't understand this? First of all, as we've discovered, many people don't even believe they have worth. That's a common problem. Or there's varying levels of how much worth. They might feel like this is me. I feel like I'm worthy in some areas in the past. I'm doing much better now, but there were areas that I feel like I was worthy and areas
where
I felt like I wasn't.
Yeah.
In a much better place. But it takes work. It takes introspection. For a believer, it takes turning these things over to the Holy Spirit, having Him help you with them, help you walk through them. And when you do that, though, there's always a benefit in my mind.
Yeah.
So, in value, worth and value, and we've talked on previous broadcasts, at least from a biblical or Christian perspective, that how God sees you is value, but you have to learn to understand that and see value in yourself. So here's the point. Learn that I have worth and value and should be treated with utmost respect. So respect is a big thing. A big thing in many circles. Some people get shot for not, quote unquote, respecting someone. So it may be a dysfunctional idea of what they think respect should be, but either way, the fact is that people do get killed for disrespect. Happens every day. I feel like it's very disrespectful for people to cut you off in traffic, or to run you off the road, or to jump in line at anything, at a hot dog stand or at a theater or whatever. There's all these kinds of disrespect, but I think what we're talking about in reference to Stephanie's situation or our situations is in relationships. That's what the focus, self-learning, a focus on relationships. So in relationships, this lack of respect is pervasive in relationships. People not respecting each other.
Yeah.
And how can they even do that if they don't have self-respect? So if they don't have worth and value, how do they even get to that point? How can you show someone else respect if you don't even respect yourself?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So for me, this first one is extremely important. Finding out, discovering that you have worth and value, and then realizing that you should be treated with respect. It should be just common decency that you treat people with respect, but it's not common anymore, in my opinion.
No.
What do you think, Jen?
Well, when you read that first bullet, I learned that I have worth and value. Just was reflecting. And, I think because I wasn't taught what that looks like when it comes to ourselves.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't look at it and actually name it as me. Like, I didn't realize that I had no worth and value. I
Right.
knew I had like low self-esteem and that I was shy,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until I met Glenn and started talking with him that I realized that I had very little worth and value. And it's funny because when you figure that out, it does shine a light on treatment. Because even if you're, we've talked about how even being treated or abused, it becomes so normalized.
Sure.
You just it gets to the point where you're kind of snowed. You
Yeah.
don't see it, but it can make it even worse if you don't have worth and self-worth and self-value, because
Yeah.
it's just the most expected. But really and truly, that was my key to seeing dysfunction, to seeing manipulation, to seeing abuse.
Sure.
So yeah, that's huge. You read the second one too, right? I learned.
I did not.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I didn't want to go
Just
ahead.
the first bullet. That's all.
Okay.
Utmost respect. Before we move to Glenn, how do you feel about the respect part of that?
Respect should be treated with utmost respect. I completely agree with what you shared. That
Yeah.
you really, I think, to feel comfortable with setting a boundary with people around you, to respect you and to not receive anything less than that.
Yeah.
You have to have self-respect, and
Yeah.
you do have to have worth and value to
Sure.
take a stand for that.
Sure.
Like, I deserve respect.
Mhm.
They go hand in hand. It's very hand in
Oh,
hand.
good point. I agree with that. Thank you, Jen. All
Yeah.
right, Glenn, what do you think? I learned that I have worth and value and should be treated with utmost respect.
I think there's a common theme here is that I keep asking myself the question, why does someone accept being treated with disrespect? And why does someone want to treat you with disrespect?
Yeah.
Great point.
So oh, wow. Yeah.
If we can deal with that, I think it will have a huge bearing on the rest of what's being said, because it seems to be, as you said, Cripps, it's a fundamental a premise here that we do deserve respect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was the last part of what you said about the other person?
Well, there was two questions. Why do we accept being treated with disrespect, and why do people treat you with disrespect? What's the motivation, or what's the modus operandi? What's in it for the person who treats you badly?
Yeah.
They've got to be getting something out of it, whether it be control or whether it's power or a number of things it could be. But ultimately, there's something there that they're getting in taking someone else down.
Yeah. So, for the first part, yeah, absolutely. So for the first part, I really think that a person accepting that disrespect, much like other things in their life, depends on what they expect out of the relationship or how they've been treated in the past and what they feel like they deserve. Ultimately, I mean, if the person does no introspection, they don't know themselves well, and you were to say to them, well, you're getting disrespected because that's what you're putting out there, they would think you're crazy. I mean, they would say probably, well, no, I'm not asking to be disrespected. But yeah, if you're allowing it, there's something about you that needs to be looked at. You shouldn't be allowing it in the first place. That's my comment on the first question. On the second part, they can get all kinds of things out of disrespecting, but at the bottom of it, again, I think it's a lack of disrespect or love for themselves. If a person loves themselves, why in the world would they have any desire or need to disrespect another person? They wouldn't be getting anything out of it. In terms of narcissism, and Jen will understand this, it's called supply. And it's not just disrespect, it's a number of things that a narcissist will do. And yes, they do get something out of it. Many times it's if they make the other person look weak or small, it makes them feel more strong and courageous. And so if they can disrespect someone else, then that's what happens. That's the emotional exchange, so to speak, that goes on. Now, obviously, to fix that, person looks at themselves and fixes themselves first, and then they can bring that change to the relationship. But I really believe that if a person respects themselves and loves themselves, they would not treat another person with disrespect. They just wouldn't. Now, from a Christian perspective, I understand that we all walk in the flesh, and we might have a moment where we disrespect someone. But I've talked to Jen about this. I'm not a perfect person. I get into the flesh sometimes, but the difference is I recognize it after the fact, at least. I mean, maybe in the moment I'm not seeing it. Sometimes it happens in the moment where I'm like, I stop myself and realize that I'm not reacting in a healthy way. It's a lot easier now as I've matured and gotten older, but in the past, sometimes it was way after the fact. I would relive the situation. I would think, well, I wasn't very nice to that person.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot quicker. What do you think, Jen? Do you want to try to answer Glenn's two questions? The first one being paraphrase, why would a person accept disrespect? What reason would they have? And the second part of it is, what does it say about the person?
Wait, don't go to the second one. Yeah, first, because my brain won't hold on to that.
No problem.
So why would somebody accept someone disrespecting them? Just from my own personal experience, I think a big part of it for me was that the treatment I was getting was normal.
Right.
Now, it was definitely hyped up, like just a way, way, way worse.
Sure.
And there was extra things added. But that also ties into the self-worth and value. I saw myself as a piece of shit. And so why would I expect someone to treat me
Yeah.
better than that? You
Sure.
know? So the lack of self-worth and value definitely played into me accepting somebody being disrespectful.
Mhm.
Um, and not knowing what healthy looks like. Um, you and I's marriage has been very healing since we first met, actually, just watching you and watching other people here on the show, talking to Glenn, and getting a better handle on what healthy looks like, what respect looks like,
Yeah.
what support and encouragement look like. Having that to compare to what I had been experiencing up until that point was huge because
Sure.
it shone a spotlight on what I was dealing with and how I was being treated. And it was like I saw it for the first time.
Mhm.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
And then I was shocked that I was like, why couldn't I see this before?
Mhm.
So it is very jarring, but yeah. So what was the second question?
So what about the person that's disrespectful? What does that say about them, or what do they get out of it? What do they get out of being disrespectful?
Yeah,
So,
I think it is a self-worth situation on their end.
mhm,
I think are if you feel good about yourself, if you have self-esteem and you're in a good place with yourself,
mhm,
I don't think there's a need to put other people down. I think when it comes to that, putting people down, disrespecting people, bullying, all that under that umbrella,
uh,
it's a mechanism to feel better about yourself.
sure,
And I think sometimes it's born out of hate. I think some people really just have a lot of hate and anger. Maybe not hate, maybe anger is the better word. And they're projecting onto other people. But I do think if there is self love, it's just impossible
right,
to throw up on people like that,
yeah,
or to treat people like that. Because when you have self worth, it's connected to even seeing the worth in other people.
mhm,
Those two things are connected as well. And when I think about the way some people that I've talked to, that the things that have been said to them and how they've been treated, my jaw falls to the floor. I can't even imagine saying to someone the things that I've heard people
yes,
saying to other people.
that's exactly
I
right,
wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And so it definitely does make me wonder, okay, what's going on in this person's life? Who's the abuser? Who's the person
yeah,
that's being disrespectful? There can't be self love there. I don't think that
no,
kind of action can be born out of someone loving
yeah,
themselves or liking themselves.
I completely agree,
It's impossible.
yeah, in my terms, how I figure out the answer to these questions is I put myself in a situation with you and ask myself the question, could I ever say those types of things to Jen? I love other people. I mean, I love my family and I have friends that I love and things like that. But no one is as close to me as you are, Jen, and I don't feel the same type of love for other people that I do for you.
Yeah.
So I ask myself the question: could I do that? Could I disrespect you? And the answer is no, not in any way.
Yeah.
And if I did it accidentally or if I was unaware of it, I would be coming back to you and apologizing profusely and trying to get it worked out. If I hurt your feelings, I would be validating and listening and holding you and whatever needed to happen. If I was in the doghouse, then I would serve my time in the doghouse and then
I
wait.
would never put you in the doghouse.
Oh, good.
Just
That's
let's get that on the table.
good. What about you?
FYI.
Oh, yeah. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Jen. Thank you. What about you, Glenn? Do you want to try to answer your own questions or would you like me to move on to the next one?
I think you've handled it really well. So please, I'm happy to go forward.
Okay, perfect. Before we move to the next one, I'm just going to read a couple comments. Up toward the top, when we asked the first question, Janet said, wait, let me find it again. Oh, it scrolled way back up. Okay, you guys are making good comments all over the place. Janet said a little ways up, perhaps the hardest thing for me with a new revelation like this is you cannot walk into autopilot. You must stay in the now. be aware and make new choices in the moment that are not your habit to. Wow.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
good stuff.
Janet follows up with, when you have health issues like exhaustion and adrenal depletion, being in autopilot is a way to be alive without spending too much energy. Yeah, I understand, Janet. And we, just so you know, Jen and I continue to pray about your battles with health and other things, dealing with family members and things like that. So I hope those are getting way better.
And further down, the I accept comment that she shared. I can relate to this one.
Okay. Do you mind if I just
read through the other ones?
Get down to it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I skipped ahead of you.
That's okay. Nathan says, I had a mate that you couldn't even finish a sentence before he was talking over you and disagreeing with you because he wasn't listening. I asked Luke and Jace at the time, and they said, kick him to the curb. Yeah, I mean, that's generally, if you're, why would you spend time in a conversation with someone? I mean, you might as well talk to yourself if you're not being listened to and they're just talking over you. What's the point? I don't
It's
really.
very disrespectful.
Yeah. Then Stephanie did it all in caps for me. Thank you so much. Stephanie says, it was normal for me. I was used to it. I accepted it because I didn't want to lose what I thought was love. I needed him in my life. Completely understand, Stephanie. Understand that when you're in it, it's hard to see it. Other people may be able to see it on the outside, but it's none of their business, for one thing, unless you bring them into it. And a lot of people are afraid to tell you what they see, afraid that they may lose the relationship with you. But either way, it does come down to what you see and what you decide for you. And I'm sure that you know that. I'm not telling you anything I didn't know. G Loves Jesus says, the more you value their opinion about you, the more power that they have over you. Hurting you will be easy. Yeah, it's not the truth. Okay, and then a couple little conversations. And then, let's see, let me try to get to the one. Janet says, for example, the narc may be constantly using surveillance. Yet when the subject comes up, they say they want to protect you. Oh yeah, that's the age old.
That's line. Like the playbook.
It's for your protection.
I just miss you, baby.
Okay. Janet says, in the old days, some men didn't allow women to drive and work, so they had to stay with an abusive husband. My mom was in that situation. Oh man, that's terrible. Was that the one that you wanted to comment on, Jen?
It was the one that said, it was at 9:22 timestamp. I accept disrespect in order to stay where I want to be without losing my ability to see family.
Wow.
That's a really tough situation. I completely understand, Janet. Completely understand. Wow. That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm praying that you don't have to be in that place,
yeah.
Your situation is a little tough, with your health issues and having kind of being forced in some ways to be around someone that's toxic for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. I learned that I have a right to voice my opinions without fear of punishment.
Yes.
Learned that I have the right to voice my opinions without fear of punishment. Yeah, this is a big one too. And this is one that plagues me. Like I've said before, I can't understand why people can't just agree to disagree. It seems like people get violently angry at you for your opinions, especially if they don't agree with your opinion. But you do have the right to voice your opinions. Even in America, at least to this point, it does seem like the freedom of speech is being eroded, or at least controlled, or corralled into an area where you can say what you want, but if you do, then you have to suffer the backlash of angry people, at least in social media situations. And I put myself in one of those situations with the whole mask thing started, if anybody remembers that. And I was just simply sharing my opinion about a situation I was at in a store where they were going to let me go in, but they were telling me that I needed a mask before the mandate was even in effect. And so there was some backlash from people about that. Even family members that just thought I was being selfish and ridiculous and endangering other people's health and whatnot. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That's not what this show is about. But being able to voice your opinions without fear of punishment, I think that's a reasonable request, Stephanie. You shouldn't be punished for your opinions. They're your opinions. You do have the right to voice them. Now, I would add to that again, like in Nathan's situation, if you're presenting your opinions to someone who's not even listening, what's the point? Just present your opinions to yourself or find someone else who will listen. But either way, you should be able to do it without any fear of punishment. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I don't know if Stephanie went through this or if any of you guys have been through this, but I spent years stuffing my truth. And I'm not exaggerating, years where I literally, and this is going to sound crazy, but I would be sort of voicing my opinions in my head all the time because I couldn't say it out loud.
Right.
It would result into huge fights and my
Right.
ex raging out. It really breaks you down as a person when you're doing that. It's breaks down your individuality, your voice, and it's really not healthy. And my prayer is that everybody gets to a point where they have healthy enough people around them, safe people, to where, like you had just said, Jason, that you can be around people where you can voice your opinion and know that it's safe, and that if you do disagree, that it's okay. It's completely okay. You can allow that person to be them with their opinion. They can allow you to be you and your opinion, having your opinion.
Sure.
But unfortunately, it's rare.
Yeah.
But I think I taught myself for years. I reinforced the fact that not the fact. I reinforced the idea in my subconscious that I had no worth, that I was a piece of shit, that I had no value. And part of me in reinforcing it was doing just that, not speaking my truth, not speaking up, not sharing my feelings, nothing. It
Right.
was just like radio silence because it wasn't safe. But I was telling myself in a way by what is it, the refusing to allow myself to speak up. I was telling myself that I didn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's very harmful, very, very harmful and dangerous. It's dangerous.
And what is the message you're telling yourself, Jen? I'm sure you know. What is the message you're telling yourself if you're just keeping your opinions, stuffing your opinions to yourself and not sharing them with anyone?
That I don't matter.
Yeah.
That I don't matter. My opinions don't matter. That it doesn't matter. Me being an individual person and having a voice and sharing that doesn't matter. It's not worthy of being heard at all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, Glenn, you're up on this one. Learn that I have a right to voice my opinions without fear of punishment. What do you think about that one?
Absolutely. So far as I say, what relationship is there if you feel constricted in voicing what you think? I mean, it's just that is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even comprehend it.
Yeah.
That you would have to shut up.
Yeah.
Like, well, Sandra, I know she's listening, but she would laugh at this one to think, why would I want to keep someone quiet? It's just ridiculous. Say what you think.
Yeah.
Get on with it. So it works.
Yeah. Glenn, I would say that you and I agree on most things, but there are definitely things we don't agree on. It doesn't mean anything. We're able to disagree, and it's okay. You can present your opinions, and I listen to them. Don't try to talk over you, a lot of times it's in chat. But I could interrupt you by typing, while you're in the middle of explaining something, I suppose. It doesn't hurt me to listen to someone else's opinions. It doesn't affect me one iota. what another person's opinion is. I have my own opinions, so why would that be a problem? The only way it would be a problem, in my opinion, is if, again, no self-worth, no value, no worth in oneself. So you feel like you have to tear someone else down.
Can I say something to add to that?
Well, of course you can.
We had talked like a bunch of radio shows back, episodes, about people getting angry in regard to Christian groups, getting really upset about difference of opinions with doctrine or whatever.
Yep.
And I think when someone can't handle another, we talked about this, that when someone can't handle somebody else having a different opinion or feeling, that it's usually they're finding stability externally.
Yeah.
They're not finding it internally. Like, I have this feeling and I'm reacting this way, and because it's my feelings, they're valid. They have to have people around them to agree for them to be valid.
Sure.
So
that's a good point. Yeah, it's external, not internal. That's a great point, Jen. Thank you for that. A couple comments. Nathan's talking about this guy that we mentioned earlier that kind of talks over him. He says Jace, calls me Jace, which I like. There's some people call me that. The clincher was one day I listened to him argue with himself for an hour. Couldn't believe how stupid it was. Then I emailed Jace to see if I was doing the right thing. I'm much happier. I'm glad you're much happier. I think, again, it's a waste of time if you're with someone that's doing that.
yes.
And then in reference to that, Nathan says, Jace, he was actually asking me questions and talking over the answers. He used to say obnoxious things like, no, go on. You tell me what you think. And he wouldn't. Yeah. So he's saying that he said to him, like, oh, no, go on. You tell me what you think. He wasn't picking up on your obnoxious comment or your sarcasm at all, it seems like. So that's for sure.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay, great. We can move on to the next one. All right. So I learned that when I speak the truth, I cannot make another person believe me. Wow. I'm looking at my screen, and these are all in green, all these bullet points, and I'm just making a line with my cursor over this one because this is a great one and huge. It is so true. When I speak the truth, I cannot make another person believe me. This is in so many areas. You speak your truth, what's true for you. Hardly matters whether it's the truth or not. It's the truth for you. To me, it does matter that if something is true, not just to you, but you can back it up, that there are still some people that will argue till they're white in the face against it. But the bottom line is, no matter what, you cannot make another person believe you or agree with your truth. Like I said, some people you can present evidence to them, pretty substantial evidence, and they will just deny it. What are the reasons why they do that? Well, one is indoctrination. They believed something for a long time, and once they believe it, it's very hard to get them away from it. It's like a pit bull with a bone, or just can't get them to let go. But if you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble if you realize this. Otherwise, you're going to keep going back and trying to make someone believe you or listen to your truth, and it can't be done. It literally can't be done. That's my opinion. I have discovered that. I have certain people in my life I don't even try anymore. It's like Nathan, that guy that Nathan's talking about. For me, I'm at the point in my life where I don't have time for any of that. I just really don't. So the minute I realize that a person is a complete and total waste of time, I'll try. I mean, I want to be friendly with people. I want to have more friends. I enjoy that. I enjoy having friends. I enjoy having people to talk to. But like I said, the minute I realized that it's fruitless, there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. and this is a big one, you can't make someone do anything, really. What do you think, Jen? I learned that when I speak the truth, I cannot make another person believe me.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah,
I'm
it
so
is a big
proud of
one.
her for learning this.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is so good. Like, I was thinking while you were talking, I was thinking about a memory with my mom, and I had called my ex a narcissist, and she got
Yes.
mad at me for labeling him.
Yes.
She got mad
Yes.
at me for labeling, quote unquote, labeling people.
Yeah.
And I was so frustrated and angry. I felt like, whose side are you on? Like,
Right.
and I don't think she understood that being able to figure out what was going on and what I was dealing with was so freeing to me.
Yeah.
Now, I know now, I hold fast to, well, I know what he is.
Right.
I know what he struggles with and why things were so abusive and crazy and
Yeah.
hellish. And that really is all that matters. If
Right.
my mom understands now, but if she still were in that place where she was thinking I was labeling him and was upset about it, it just water off a duck's back.
Right.
Because I know my reality and I know my truth.
Hmm.
And it's again not hinged on something external. But I grew up until 3 years ago, feeling like my truth was hinged on other people
Right.
agreeing with me. And
Mhm.
that's a really rough place to live.
Well, sure.
My gosh. And then it's always changing
Yeah.
because everybody else's opinions outside of yourself, they all differ.
Sure they do.
It's like, ah.
Sure they
So,
do.
so yeah, that's my answer.
That's a great answer. Thank you for that, Jen. All right, Glenn, this is a big one. In my opinion, I learned that when I speak the truth, I cannot make another person believe me. What do you think?
I think it's just huge. And I don't think Stephanie's going to mind if I just share a little bit about this.
Sure.
Is when we were having a chat, she had some conversations between herself and another person, and we role played it and turned it around so that she took the role of the person who was not believing her, and I took the role of her. And you see, when you have a back and forth, what would you call them, conversation, if you like,
Sure.
and it goes for 20 or 30 comments back and forth total,
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah, I've just got to get my train of thought, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, just highlighting the futility of when a person doesn't believe you and you are trying to make them believe you, and you're trying to give all these reasons why you should believe me, but it's totally wasted. It's just, it is totally frivolous, whatever you want to call it. And when we got to the end of that role play, Stephanie said, I should have canned this conversation from the first comment.
Right.
When I realized this person didn't believe me. The rest of it was garbage. That's a total waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah. When you were, just as a reminder, when you were talking about that, when printing it out, you said you could have stopped typing after the first couple sentences. There was just no point.
And what was more important is that Stephanie saw that. She saw it straight away.
Yeah.
It's like this big, oh my goodness, what have I done? I've just spent all this anxiety and whatever emotions you want to put in there, trying to convince a person that is not interested in what I say, because they've already made their mind up. They don't believe me.
Right. Exactly.
it's just bonkers. So,
and it's crazy making.
Yeah.
And with some of these people that are abusive and toxic, that's their goal. They want to get you to a point where you question your own reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they can break you down to that point, you're just so much more vulnerable and able to be manipulated and abused even more.
Oh, sure.
When you question your own logic or reality or truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
It's a horrible place to be.
Speaking of Stephanie, so she made the comment, I'll share this. That is the hardest thing for me. I have a hard time being truthful and someone not believing me or even wanting to hear me out. Yeah. Stephanie, we're not saying it's, especially initially before you come to this conclusion, it's not easy. It's not easy to want. I mean, yeah, I think there's a part of us that we want people to believe us. Why would we not want people to believe us? But again, getting to that point is helpful for anyone to realize that you can't do it. It's not worth your time. Maybe someone that you've never had this issue before, you start talking to them and tell them your truth, and maybe they do believe you. I don't know, but at some point you have to decide whether it's worth your time or not. And then she added, once they think their assumptions are right, that is their truth, no matter the actual truth. Again, right on. Absolutely. That's kind of what I was saying when I was answering that part. For me, even if you present evidence to them in some way, there are just some people that it's like trying to drag a donkey's laying down on the ground and you want the donkey to move, and you're pulling on the reins, and the donkey's not going anywhere. You're not going to get them up. Doesn't matter what you do. They're just going to sit down. And sometimes that's the way that it is. So thank you for that. Okay. Did everyone answer that? I believe. All right. Next one. I learned that this is good. I learned that setting healthy boundaries tells people where they stand with me. I learned that setting healthy boundaries tells people where they stand with me.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is, a lot of people don't understand what healthy boundaries is. The problem is they hear what boundaries are, and then they think that what they're doing is setting up healthy boundaries. I had this issue with my mother. I would tell her that when she first started out, okay, so in fairness, it's when she first started out trying to set boundaries. And some of her boundaries, they weren't just boundaries for her, it was the expectation of other people to go along with their boundaries. And they don't have to. They don't have to go with your boundaries.
Exactly.
But whatever your boundaries are for you, it does tell you where they stand with you. You're telling someone what they expect of you if you're setting up a boundary. The key word here, though, is healthy. So if they're healthy boundaries, that's where the best results come from. You're thinking about whatever your boundary is. You're crafting it in a way where it's only about you. It's not about the other person. It's just what you need in a relationship. And if the person is listening at all, sometimes people aren't going to care or listen to your boundary anyway. They'll walk all over it. But if they walk all over it, then that tells you a lot about them.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, healthy boundaries, in my opinion, either way, you get a lot of information from that that can be useful for you moving forward in your life. What do you think, Jen?
I completely agree with what you said. It's definitely letting you know. It's like it's letting you know where they stand with you and whether or not they respect the boundary or step over it.
Yep.
But it kind of is letting them know too.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody is out to cross boundaries and manipulate and be disrespectful, but to a degree, I think anybody would know, okay, this person set this boundary with me and I stepped over it, like someone who's, I don't want to say evil, but somebody who's really not out for your best interest. It's a way of them testing you. How much can you be manipulated? How much of a doormat are you? Like if I step over your boundary, you're going to give me one chance, it's a 1 second chance or another.
Right.
So for both people, it's kind of a gauge.
Right. Here's something just occurred to me when you were talking, Jen. Kids do this.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You'll set up a boundary. This is good. You'll set up a boundary for a kid, and the kid will often test the boundaries. That's understandable. He's a kid. He or she is a kid. So you know that that's going to happen. You tell the kid, okay, here's the cookie jar. I'm going to keep cookies in this jar. You're not to have a cookie without permission.
Yeah.
Now, I was someone when I was a kid that did this. I was a clever little devil. And then so if my parents would set a boundary or rule, I would try to find the loophole.
Yep.
I really would. I'd say, well, they said I can't get a cookie without permission. What does that really mean? Like, does she mean whose permission? I would ask a friend, can I have a cookie? It's just an example. They didn't say ask them for permission, so you have to be really careful, right? That's the way my
Yeah,
mind works. At least
totally.
that's the way it works. Now, I don't choose to do that sort of thing now, but the point I was going to make was, now, if you're in an adult relationship and you're setting boundaries for people and they test those boundaries,
Hmm.
they're like a child.
Yeah.
They're responding to an adult situation just like a child would. Again, understandable when a child first does it, not understandable when an adult does it. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
There should be no reason for an adult to test your boundaries. And I was just going to add really quick, Jen, you had it was probably over a year ago, but you set up healthy boundaries, in my opinion, for someone else, and they seemed to walk all over it the first time, and then you reiterated the boundary, and they tried to do better. But then there was the way that they did it, though, was, in my opinion, sarcastic and obnoxious. So
I'm trying to remember what you're talking about.
it's the little signs on the doors.
Oh, yeah.
Put little signs on. You didn't want them to slam cupboards because it was
Yeah.
triggering your heart racing and things like that, loud noises, and reminded you of things from the past. And when you mentioned it the first time, they just kept doing it. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned it again, got really upset. And then they did a better job. But in fact, not just one or two little notes with an X on it, but several all over the place, which I think was over. It seems like it was helpful. I mean, you look at it at first glance, it seems like, oh, that's sweet that they would go to that much trouble. And I could be totally wrong. Maybe I'm wrong that it wasn't obnoxious, or it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But the point I was going to make was the way that someone does it too can tell you a lot. Maybe someone's trying to follow your boundaries, but the way they do it can tell you even more about them as well.
Yeah. I recently had a run-in with someone, and they had said some really mean things to me, and I called them out on it. I let them know that they weren't a safe person for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had set some boundaries about a particular topic not being talked about between the two of us.
Right.
And said that if we were going to talk about it, I needed to bring it up.
Right.
That they pretty much weren't allowed to bring it up.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
when they brought it up, it was just not a pretty thing.
Right.
And after these mean things were said to me over the phone, they sent me an apology, and then they sent me a whole bunch of stuff that was crossing over my boundary that I had set with them. So for me, it was kind of reiterating, okay, this person isn't safe for me.
Right.
And they just don't care about this boundary that I've set. And it just says a lot. It says a lot about the relationship and a lot about where they stand, where I stand with them and where they stand with me. So
right. Exactly.
Information and more information is always good.
Yeah. Good point, Jen. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn? I learned that setting healthy boundaries tells people where they stand with me.
I agree. And I think boundaries is just a thing. Like if I look at Sandra and myself, really there's no boundaries, but that's a healthy relationship.
Right.
I think when you're in a position where you are unsure of yourself and still working through a lot of things, I think precisely they do tell people, but you've got to communicate it to them, straight down the line. These are my boundaries, not just have it in your head and then all of a sudden walk away from it when it gets a little bit tough. I mean, this is the real world. You've got to step the ball once people come near the fence and try
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, what you said there, though, I want to make sure people understand. So what I hear Glenn saying is that he and Sandra don't have to set up boundaries because they're in a healthy relationship, and that makes sense to me. Yes, if you're in a healthy relationship, you just kind of get to a place where you understand how to treat the other person, and so there wouldn't really be any need for boundaries. But that's not as common as some people might think. Doesn't mean that if you set up healthy boundaries that there's anything wrong with that, or the idea that you shouldn't have to. Sometimes, look, it's just a reality of relationships. Sometimes you have to do that in order to protect yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not implying Glenn was saying there's anything wrong with that. It just would be easy for someone to say, well, you don't have to set up boundaries, or if you have to set up boundaries, it automatically means that the relationship itself isn't healthy. I don't have to set up boundaries with Jen. I mean, our relationship is fairly young, at least in comparison to Glenn and Sandra. But both of us are reasonably, I would consider us reasonably healthy people. So we kind of know what to expect from the other person, I believe. And I can't think of any boundaries I've set up. The way it looks is if Jen is doing something that I'd prefer she didn't, I just would share with her. I'd appreciate it if you do this. It's not really a boundary necessarily. It's just me sharing my feelings with her.
Yeah.
And she respects me enough to work on that, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So
and it's being observant too of each other.
Exactly. Jay Lynn has a question. Is it possible to have healthy when most of your life it wasn't healthy? I have healthy boundaries in my mind. In real life, it's a mess. That's a good question. Okay, so is it possible to have healthy when most of your life it wasn't healthy? Jalen, this is my opinion. It is absolutely possible for you to have healthy with you. That's the first step. Before you worry about anyone else, whether they're healthy or not, or whether the relationship is healthy, all you can do is change yourself, the way that you look at yourself, the way that you treat yourself, the way that all of that first.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of, test the water with other people and decide which relationships you have are important enough to try to teach the other person what's a healthy boundary for you. I think that's a good point. So yes, it's possible. And the other point, I forget who said it, whether it was Glenn or Jen, but I think it was Glenn, setting healthy boundaries in your head does no good.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, the other person needs to know. You can't just set a boundary for you and they don't know about it and
then get upset
when they don't. Yeah. Now, the minute you share the boundary, then if they're not following it, then again, they show you how much respect or disrespect they have for you based on their reaction to that.
Yeah. And if somebody loves you and cares about you,
yes,
they'll, unless it's something ridiculous,
yeah,
they're going to, that's part of relationships, catering to each other, and it's not even catering, it's considering the other person.
Yeah.
So,
like I said earlier, it should be just common decency, right?
Yeah.
But it's not common. Just like the term common sense. Oh, that's common sense. What is common sense anymore, even? Because it doesn't seem like it exists really. Common sense. Things that you think should be common sense are not for a lot of people. But that's a story for another time. Okay, everyone commented on that one, and I don't really see anything else to share as far as comments go. I don't know what this relates to, but Nathan says, my dad's always complaining that me and mom go out together. That's because you're unsafe, buddy. You crapped in your own bed. Oh, that must be about your dad. Yeah. Unsafe. Yeah, that's a topic we could do a show on, whether a person is safe or unsafe. And only you can decide that. You have to decide for yourself who's safe and unsafe. And it's difficult with family. I mean, I have situations with certain family members that I'm in the process right now. I always kind of felt unsafe, but I'm at the point now, even at my age, of deciding whether I can even spend time around a person at all because they are unsafe. So, and with family, there's a lot of guilt and shame about that. Well, they're family. You should give grace, and you should, forgive them for their jerkiness. I can forgive a person. This is important to understand. You can forgive a person. Doesn't mean that you want to spend time around them. Forgiveness isn't about staying around the person who continues to sin against you over and over and over again. Yes, biblically speaking, you need to forgive them. Jesus said nothing about continuing on in a relationship with that person and allowing them to step over your boundaries and hurt you and abuse you again and again and again. And that's where people end up staying in abusive marriages because, well, God hates divorce. Well, yeah, he does hate divorce, but he loves people more than an institution. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we got through that one. Next one, and this is the last one of the affirmative ones, and then we get to the nots. I learned that only I can speak for me.
Yeah, it's big.
I learned that only I can speak for me. Nobody else has the right to speak for me. I'll read it one more time. I learned that only I can speak for me. Nobody else has the right to speak for me. That is huge. And again, we could probably spend a whole show on that one. These are great. Stephanie and Glenn, these conversations are really, really very helpful in my opinion. Yeah, only you can speak for you. Yes. I had mentioned earlier about, setting healthy boundaries for yourself. You can't do that for someone else. Only you can decide. Only you can use your voice. No one can make you speak. And no one has the right to speak for you. That is huge. And a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people will speak for you. I mean, how often does that happen? Some people go further than that. They'll tell you what you should think.
I was going to mention that.
Well, your turn's coming up. I'm almost done. I want to hear. Yeah, I was going to even use one of your situations, but I'll let you do that. I'll just say that this is something that happens to many people where people just, speak for them and try to control them. It is about control. If someone is trying to speak for you, it causes all kinds of problems, especially if it's something that you didn't say. Someone's speaking for you to someone else.
The gaslighting.
Oh, yeah, gaslighting for sure. Yeah, nobody has the right to speak for you. That's true.
Nope.
Go ahead, Jen.
Can you read the question again?
Oh, absolutely. I learned that only I can speak for me. Nobody else has the right to speak for me.
That's such a good one. I'm just gonna, I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's just so good. One of the things I was gonna add though with what you were talking about is emotions. Sometimes people will tell you what you're thinking or what you mean when you say something.
Yeah.
Sometimes people tell you how you're feeling or you don't feel that way.
Right.
Or, things like that. And it's just very mind twisting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Owning your truth is a big, big, big deal.
Yeah.
And how do you teach people that? Because I look back at my story and I'm like, I don't remember where along the road I learned how to do that. I mean, I did learn it.
Yeah.
But gosh, I don't know. I don't know how to describe that, but it'd be great if they had a class.
Yeah. It is something that you do learn. And the more you do it, the more you speak for yourself and let people know that they cannot speak for you. They cannot.
There you go.
They cannot control you. They cannot tell you what to think. They cannot tell you your emotions and feelings are wrong.
Yeah.
They're your emotions and feelings. They're not theirs. They can think whatever they want. They can have whatever emotions they have. They can't tell you what your emotions should be.
You know where it starts? It starts with self-validating.
Mm.
If you're lacking self-validation in your own feelings and thoughts and ideas and opinions and all that stuff, I think you're more susceptible to changing how you feel or how you think and stuff because other people, their opinions and feelings about things seem stronger because you just are lacking practice of saying, you know what, this is how I feel, whether you agree or not, and I'm going to allow myself to feel this, whether somebody else thinks it's right or wrong, that's fine. Do what you want, people, whoever you are.
Yeah.
But I'm hurt right now, or I'm sad right now, or I'm depressed right now, or I'm angry right now.
Right.
And I'm going to embrace that. I'm not going to stay there forever, but that's my truth.
Yeah, that's your truth for now. So people can get happy with the same face they got mad with if they're trying to control you or tell you your feelings are wrong, and you're telling them you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Again, that's a topic we could do a whole show on is
Yes.
people not falling in line with that and reacting. I'll just say this to the one about the healthy boundaries. When you start setting up healthy boundaries for unhealthy people, expect there to be backlash. Just expect it.
Yeah. Rock the boat.
People do not like it when you're making healthy decisions when they've seen you in a particular role, especially in families. They see you in a particular role the rest for your whole life. They react violently to that, a lot of them. But again, if they were reacting violently to it, then that gives you information about that particular person.
Yeah.
It can tell you a lot about who a person is and what kind of value they have I
was going to say, go. Sorry, babe. Sorry.
I just want to finish my sentence. The value that you have in the relationship with that person. That's all.
Yeah.
And that comment wasn't meant to sound sarcastic. Babe. Okay.
It was great.
Okay.
You're direct and truthful.
Okay.
I was just going to say it also points out the importance of the role you were playing
Mhm.
and how people react to you stepping out of it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Glenn, you're up on this one, the last of the affirmative ones, and then we're going to get to the have-nots. I learned that I can only speak for me. Nobody else has the right to speak for me.
I can't top what you and Jen said, but I asked the question with there's 5 things in the affirmative category. Is anyone here prepared to accept even one of those in a relationship? Oh, I'd love to know. Really?
That's a good question.
Would you?
Learn that I have worth and value and should be treated. I will not be in a relationship where I'm constantly disrespected. I can allow one time. Maybe the person doesn't know. Maybe they had a bad moment or having a bad day. I can accept that. But no, ultimately no. Right to voice my opinions without fear of punishment. No, I won't be in a relationship with someone where I feel punished for my opinions again and again and again. This one I kind of address this, at least from my end, but no, I will not waste my time on people that continually do not believe me, my own truth. Now, if it's something that's not about how I feel, but like flat Earth, for instance, someone doesn't agree with flat Earth, that's fine. Trust me, I'm in plenty of relationships with people that don't agree with that. And I still go to sleep well every night, and I'm sure they do as well. So that's not really an issue. But when it comes to relationships and important things, no, I won't. I choose not to spend my time that way. As far as boundaries are concerned, this one is, I learned that setting healthy boundaries tells people where they stand with me. At this point, when I set up healthy boundaries and the person continually walks over them, I'm done. It's not that I hold resentment toward that person, but I'm not going to be in a relationship with people that do not respect my boundaries. I just don't have the time or energy for that. Yeah. So it's move on down the road. People that speak for me, I can't think of any examples of people who do that in my life now. So I would say that I would not allow that if there were. I've known that one for a while. No one has the right to speak for me. And I was just going to add to that, when you start using your voice, if before you didn't, the more you use your voice, the more people will quit.
Yes.
Whether they want to or not, they're going to quit speaking up for you because you're speaking enough for yourself. Yeah. Whether they agree with it or not. What about you, Jen? Or you don't have to go through them one by one, but are there any of these? Glenn's asking the question, are there any of these that you would allow?
No.
Right.
No. And part of it, a big part of it is because I've already been there.
Yeah.
I lived there for a while. I got the t-shirt. I got the bumper sticker. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I know what Glenn's answer is, but you
don't speak for him.
Yeah. Don't. What do you say, Glenn? What do you say?
I just why? No way, man.
No way, man.
But if someone doesn't trust you, I mean,
Yeah.
what are you doing there?
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah. What value is the relationship?
It isn't a relationship. Someone doesn't trust you.
Someone
Well,
doesn't respect your boundaries, all those things. You're right. I mean, people may call it a relationship, but
It's a make believe relationship,
yeah.
yeah.
but that's all. It's an illusion.
Yeah. I get it. I get what you're saying. Before we move on to the things Nathan just said, Jace, what do you do when it's your family? Your opinion doesn't matter, yet they expect your opinion. That is a great question, Nathan. And I'm in that same situation, but I don't live with my family. They are close by, and there are some family members that I get along with very well, and there's others that we're not in constant battle, but they're just a person that does. I feel they don't respect me. I mean that message has been clear all of my 51 years. The message is clear that they do not respect me. So I am not safe around this person, and I don't really care to spend time around them. Earlier on in my life, because they are a family, I did try to invest time. I did, and I had expectations that this person would they'll eventually come around, and I even shared things with them. Shared how I felt about certain things, and it amounted to nothing. In fact, mostly it wasn't open ridicule, but they showed me by their actions that what I said meant absolutely nothing. It didn't matter to them at all. So Nathan, I understand it's a difficult situation. I don't know how close you are with these particular family members, but my advice to you, and in every situation where your opinions don't matter, you're under no obligation to give you they can expect whatever they want.
Yep.
If your opinion doesn't matter to them, why waste your time presenting it? They can ask you questions, and you could say, hey, my opinion doesn't matter. If you wanted to go this far, you could say, my opinion doesn't matter to you. Why would I waste my breath in presenting my opinion to you? A lot of times it's just they already know that they're not going to agree with you, so they want to argue. So it depends on you whether you want to spend the time arguing or not. So it is for me too, Nathan. Nathan said it's his dad. So there you go. I have the same situation, my friend. So I can empathize with you for sure. Hello to Brother Dave, and hello to Torben. Welcome to the broadcast, guys. And also Switch just popped in. Hello, Switch. You guys are awesome. Glad you guys are here. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the broadcast. And if you just popped in, definitely, this is a good one. So go back and listen to this one. It's great. Listen to the playback. Okay. Okay, great. So we're now into the nots. So these are all not statements. The first one is, I learned to not allow another person to control my life. These are just as good as the affirmative ones.
Yeah.
I learned to not allow another person to control my life. That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I personally do not want another. My parents both wanted to control me in very different ways. My mother wanted to control everything, right down to what kind of clothes I wore, to what kind of food I ate, when I ate, what kind of friends I hung out with, and I know when I'm younger, I mean, that's just the way that it is. I mean, a parent has some influence on, I mean, they're the ones cooking the food. But when I got older, I mean, they had to get permission from the person's parents if I want to go play at someone's house. And some of that I appreciate. I appreciate that they didn't knowingly hand me over to some family that could hurt me in some way. I'm sure there were many things that as a child I did not understand the reason why they might have said no to things. So
yeah,
some of these things I respect, but I grew up in a very controlling atmosphere, and I grew to hate it. I continually moved away as often as I could to get away from it. But because I was unhealthy in some areas and still wanted the acceptance and
approval
of my family, I would continually put myself back into the same damn situation over and over and over again. Now, I am at the point now where I will not do it. I will not continually put myself in that situation. I have broken every area where any of my family can control me, and I will not knowingly put myself into any situation like that ever again. I'm done. Took me a long time, guys. So I understand why this would be difficult for a person, but this is, once you learn this first one, once you learn this, it's going to make your life easier. Just like Nathan said, that he's happier. That situation may not have been particularly about control, but
Yeah.
it does still apply. Don't let anyone control your life. The minute you learn this, you're on your way to the road for peace in your life.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. What do you think, Jen? I learned to not allow another person to control my life.
This is huge. I ditto everything that you said and shared. So huge. One thing I'll say is that I think a big key to this is recognizing that you have a choice. Now, again, I understand that when you're kids, you know, it's you don't, to a certain age,
Right,
you don't have a
right.
choice. You have to do what your parents tell you and respect them.
Exactly.
But I was in a really abusive situation for 14 years, and
Mhm.
I could have walked out at any time. I honestly believed I couldn't. I
Right,
honestly thought that I did not have that choice
right.
or any choice, really. My gosh, it just was so bad.
Yeah,
But recognizing that you do, this isn't something I would encourage people to do unless, a parent or family member was incredibly toxic. But you have a choice to even go no contact.
yeah.
And sometimes that is the best thing. It's the
Mhm.
healthiest thing for you. Um, Again, it's a choice. And I think I just have read and heard many stories of people having a really hard time doing that. But the exposure to these people, was just very toxic and harmful and destructive and just killing them slowly, just really not
Mhm.
good. And they felt like they couldn't separate themselves from these people because they're family, their blood.
Right, right.
Um, you do have a choice, and it is finding that self-worth and self-love
Yes,
that'll bring you to that point. And I do think that if you pray, God, if that's what he feels is best for you, I do believe that he would show you that you mean the world to him and that he wants you to be safe and healthy.
right.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. There should be bells going off on that. That's fantastic. Not just saying that. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
babe.
you for sharing that. Glenn, I learned to not allow another person to control my life. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this one.
I agree, but the hardest part of this is, what does control look like? If you're inside the bubble, I mean, what appears to be normal is control.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that next week we'll be addressing what control actually looks like, and
Yes.
Good.
Stephanie will be able to confirm she didn't even realize. She
Right.
may have known something didn't feel right, but but when you've generationally been shown that this is normal,
Hmm.
and control almost becomes an automatic way of breathing.
Right.
So it's all okay to not allow it, but you got to know what it is in the first place. That's what I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to identify what
Yes,
control is for you. And also, what's control for you may not be control for someone else. So we're talking specifically about for you. What is control for you? Not anyone else. It's what's control for you. That's it. That's a good point. And before we move on to the next one, Stephanie did have a quote for us. True Story Live. It again was normal for me. This is what Glenn's saying, I think, in reference to this comment. It again was normal for me to be controlled. I felt that I needed to be loved. Okay, so in order to be loved, you felt like you needed to be controlled. Yeah, I get it. I completely get it. Again, these things that we're talking
Dang.
about, we're not saying they're easy, especially with family, but in any situation where a person is controlling you, just like Jen was saying, she felt like she needed to stay. And she's described to me being in that place of thinking that you could never stay and waking up every day and thinking, this is my life. I have no choice. This is just what I have to look forward to every day. And that I cannot even imagine. Well, I can imagine in certain situations, but it just is not a good place to be in.
No.
So the quicker you can extricate yourself from any situation like that, the better. So I definitely encourage you, Stephanie, to listen to what Jen said for sure. You do have a choice, no matter what it seems like to you. Yes, is it harder with family members? Yes. Is it harder in a relationship, like a marriage relationship? Maybe you've got kids. Is that more difficult? Yes, it is difficult. Doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah,
But
it's not impossible either.
right. Then you have to decide, though, in the end, what is best for you, for your well-being, for you to be able to move forward in a healthy way in your life. What is best for you? The difficulty of getting out of a situation like that and not allowing it to continue, or staying in that, like Jen was saying, for 14 years and thinking you have no way out and thinking you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
The minute Jen started to realize, and God was, I believe God was communicating to her spirit saying, this is not my way for you. That's not my desire. I have something way better for you. And she didn't even know what that better thing was. But she had to get out first. She prayed about it, and she got the green light to get out, and it was the right thing. And then afterwards, looking back at it, she could see that she always had a choice.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand the situation she was in, especially as a believer, when constantly even people are given advice from churches and pastors and other Christians, you're in an abusive marriage, and they say, well, God hates divorce. It's a blanket statement. And even if they don't know what all's going on, that's the go-to answer is, well, you got to work it out. They'll even encourage you, to stay in it, and just, well, God's gonna take care of you. Well, God taking care of you may be that he wants you out of it. And I'm not giving personal advice to anyone that's in that situation. I'm not telling you to leave. I'm just telling you do have a choice. You always have a choice. That's my opinion. That's all it is an opinion, but there it is. Okay. Any comments? I read Stephanie's comment. I don't see anything else. Gia Loves Jesus says, I'll never be controlled by my parents again. They're both dead. My mother's in heaven. My father, not so sure. Well, definitely sorry about your parents both being gone, Gia, but it's good, based on your statement, it's good that you don't have to worry about them controlling you.
Yeah.
I would add, though, that some people even are still controlled by their parents when they're parent. I'm not saying you, Gia, but I know that people are still controlled by them when they die. They never are able to break free from all the control that happened while they were still living. I would say that a parent doesn't have to be alive to control their child. They still have what we call tapes that run through your mind, things that your parents said, negative reinforcement things that continue to go unless you do something about it. They continue to play regardless of whether that person is around or not. But again, not saying you, G, I'm just saying in general. Okay. All right. Next one. I learned to not give in to temptation to change myself. Oh my gosh. Not change myself in exchange for, quote, love, unquote. Read it again.
Dang.
I learned to not give in to temptation to change myself in exchange for love. I've been answering these first. Does anyone else want? I mean, it works for me. I'm happy to do that, but I haven't offered anyone else an opportunity to go first.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I apologize.
I'm just kidding.
I really do.
Keep going, Crips.
Yeah. You want to answer first, Jen? Go right ahead.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, I can completely. Shoo. I resonate with this one, Stephanie. Oh my gosh. Yeah, coming from a person who was a chameleon and changed herself for everybody around her to be loved, in order to be loved, because I felt like I was crap, and who would love me?
Me.
Adorable. Oh man. Yeah, I just feel like we can't drive home the point enough how
No.
important it is to love yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that well, I will say this. I think there are toxic people that want to convince you that if you change, they'll love you, but it never comes.
Ooh, future faking.
Yeah. And then you have people, I think, that you are assuming that in order for them to love you, that you need to morph yourself into someone or do
Right.
certain things or whatever to earn. And I
Yeah.
think I think the message of earning love goes back to childhood. I
Sure.
think many of us have been told things or not been told things or not taught things to where we feel like love is conditional.
Hmm.
And we grow up with that. So we turn into adults that feel like,
Right.
in order to be in a relationship or to keep a person, to
Right.
keep them from leaving us,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, that we have
Wow.
to change ourselves. Um, and many times we lose ourselves, which I think I've heard this from many testimonies, and I think for me, it's happened in the past where when you lose yourself in those kind of relationships, it makes it scarier to leave
Yeah.
because you've melded your personality to this person that you're with,
Yes.
healthy or not.
Yes.
But you feel so empty without them because of the abandonment that you've done for yourself to yourself.
Hmm.
That it's scary as crap
Yeah.
to even think about living without them. It's just inconceivable and it's
Yeah.
scary and terrifying. And that's another reason to hang on to your autonomy, who you are, because
Beautiful.
when you have that, you can know that you'll be okay, without this other person. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts.
Well, that's a wonderful thought. I was going to use the example you said you're a chameleon. When you were talking, I thought of the example of a chameleon that has changed their colors to match the background that someone else is presenting for them for such a long
Mhm.
time that when they move away from the relationship for a while, they can't change it. It's already superimposed. It's like looking at
Like
a TV
stuck.
screen. Yeah, it's stuck. Like when you look at a light for a while and then you turn the light off, but you close your eyes and you still see the
Yeah.
image superimposed on the back of your eyelids. That's what it's like. It puts the image, it burns the image in place. Uh, I don't know if that's any good or not,
No, that's very good. That's very
but
descriptive. I can picture it.
even in that situation, you can still change as a
Yeah.
even if you were a chameleon, you can. It may take time to change that. Okay, you're up next, Glenn, on this one, and I'll go last. So uh, I learned to not give into the temptation to change myself in exchange for love. That's the one we're on, right? Yeah.
It is. I think that's one of Stephanie's big ones
Yeah. That's
because
big.
huge because you're not changing yourself in exchange for love. That's for sure.
Right.
So why are you changing yourself for something that doesn't exist in the
Yeah.
form that you want it to, or you
Right.
aspire to, or wish it to?
Right.
So that's that. I think that is the big take on this. You give in, you don't get love. What do
Right.
you get?
Hmm.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I would say that if a person doesn't love you for who you are when they meet you, they're never going to love you. You can't change enough. If someone doesn't love you, they don't love you. You can't make yourself into some kind of image of someone they expect you to be. And I'm guilty of this. My first marriage, I honestly, and I know this, and I'm being transparent, and it's not cool. But I wanted to be married, and I was getting older, and I stepped ahead of God. In my opinion, I stepped ahead of God and His plan for me, and I decided to marry someone that there were plenty of red flags that told me that this was not the right person for me, and I definitely paid the consequences. Just so everybody knows, I paid the consequences for that. But I'm not saying I didn't love her at all. Now that I have experienced real love, I can say that. But at the time, I thought and I felt like I loved her, but what I loved was the person I thought she could be. just being completely honest. That was wrong of me to do that. There was a lot wrong with me to even get into a relationship where I could not fully accept the person for who she was at the time. I accepted I had the expectation that when we had the conversations about what we both wanted to change in our lives, that would be what she would do. And that's what I based my love upon, about some arbitrary in the future version of her that I could really, really love. And of course, it never happened. She didn't even try. There was no attempt to do all the things that she said, and that's her part. But my part is I learned a lot from that, and that was faulty love on my part. It was completely wrong for me to expect that. I can honestly say that I'm not in that place now. I love Jen, and I've told her this before. I love her for the person she was the day that I met her. I've told her, and I mean this, if she had not changed a single thing, even in the parts of her that were broken and needed attention, if she had never changed at all, I would still love her. I love her for who she is internally. And she has all the space and grace and room to change if she wants to grow as a person, to do whatever she feels like she needs to do. And I will just continue to love her regardless. Now, it's a real blessing to me that she does want to change. She's a person that looks at herself and sees things in her life that she does want to be different, and she works on it. She works on it better, in my opinion, than most people that I know. Goes after things quickly, even though it's difficult, and she just really, really goes after it. And I just appreciate that among
babe.
many qualities. It's incredible. Okay, so my turn. Give into the temptation to change myself in exchange for love. Well, I gave an example of where I had loved something someone could be. I would never do that again. I've never expected. Okay, so temptation to change myself. I've had that expectation of myself, even if no one put it on me. I looked at myself and saw things that I thought were flaws, consider them flaws, and I lived in a constant state of I'm going to change myself so that I can be loved. So
good point.
I didn't need someone else to do it. I was doing it to myself.
Yes.
And that's one reason why I did not get into many relationships my whole life, because I decided about myself that I was not worthy of the kind of relationship that I wanted. And the kind of relationship that I wanted is exactly the one I have. I've always wanted this. I wanted a person that was healthy. I wanted a person that really loved me and cared about me. And I have no doubt about it. There's no doubt about that Jen loves me. So I did it to myself. So if I can do that to myself, maybe you don't need someone else to do that for you. You're trying to change yourself or waiting for yourself to change before you get into a relationship. That's what I did, and I was wrong, and I learned from it. So that's my answer to that one. So good for you, Stephanie, that you're seeing that now. Oh, one more thing. Doesn't matter that you didn't do this before. I mean, you have to learn to give yourself grace, not just you, Stephanie, but anybody that's been through this.
Yeah.
It is easy to beat yourself up. Beat yourself up and get into a place where you don't need anyone to beat you up. You're doing it to yourself. You know, why did I stay in that relationship? Why did I get into that? Why did I say this? Why did I do that? Over and over and over again. You don't need anyone else's tapes. You got your own tapes running in your head, and they're negative.
Your own worst critic.
Yes, and I've struggled with that too in some areas. Not all areas, but I struggled in some. I'm way better than I used to be, and I'm still working on it. I'm telling myself the truth about me, not believing the lies that I was told or believed, even the ones I told myself. So it's difficult. It can be a long road, but there's nothing like getting to the other side of that and not doing that to yourself anymore.
Yes, nothing like it at all.
Okay, we all got through that one. That's good. Nathan says, I'm opposite. I think about every angle before I do something so I don't fall or have to do it twice. Sometimes I'm glad I waited. Waiting is a good thing, Nathan, in most things. The Bible tells us to wait on the Lord all the time. And that is something Jen and I can go on for hours about what we've learned about waiting on God and what that looks like. And it's a more difficult thing to determine, but he walks you through that. So that's good. Okay. I learned to not be in a relationship without each person loving themselves. Oh my gosh, how difficult is this one? Go ahead, Jen. I learned to not be in a relationship without each person loving themselves.
Yeah, this is so good.
Super good. Super
There's so
good.
many angles to come at this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were talking about before about somebody being abusive and it coming out of their own hate, their own self-hatred. That's one very good reason on top of many to aim to be with someone that, or to not be in a relationship with a person that's not loving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And to maybe even hold off on you getting into a relationship yourself if
Good point.
you're struggling with loving yourself.
Yeah.
Golly, this is just a jam-packed one. I've got all these thoughts racing through my head. I'm like, which one do I share?
It's okay. You that happens all the time, but what you do is you just do what you always do. Just take it slow and
Yeah.
pick
I learned
one.
to not be in a relationship without each person loving themselves. You know, if I haven't said this before on the show, but I hate the movie Jerry Maguire. That stupid line, "You complete me." Oh my gosh, I took that hook, line, and sinker, guys, along with all of the Disney movies growing up. You know, the Knight on a White Horse.
Mm-hmm.
Just this whole idea that somebody completes you, and the falsity that it brings up is I don't have to love myself. I don't have to learn to love myself because somebody else will do it for me.
Yeah.
And a person really and truly can't. It just doesn't penetrate the way it does when you learn to love yourself. And you shouldn't be putting that much pressure on somebody anyway.
Right.
But you know, I've been on the flip side of that. I think to an extent, I knew my ex didn't like himself,
Uh-huh.
and I thought love could conquer all.
Yeah, you did.
Now, Christ's love, I believe, can conquer all.
Amen.
But the love of a mere human, I just thought it would fix everything. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful idea. It's a beautiful fantasy. But I poured my everything into loving this person that hated me and treated me like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And things got worse. It did not ever get better. It just it was terrible. So even me, you know, one, choosing to be in a relationship with him when I was not in a place of loving myself, but also ignoring the red flags coming from him that, you know, a healthy person would have seen and would have recognized as somebody not loving themselves, you know, stay away.
Yeah.
So yeah, loving yourself and being with someone that loves themselves is really, really a big deal.
Yeah.
Jerry
Amen.
Maguire. Tom
I
Cruise.
agree with you. I probably didn't suck it down as much as you did, but I at the time when I saw it, I loved it. I thought it was great. Oh, I need to find the right person. I was also going to say, Jen, that you were set up for that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. You were set up for that from the first Disney movie you saw till the time that you saw Jerry Maguire and beyond. You're set up to think that you're looking for your knight in shining armor, someone to come and rescue you. I mean, it's everywhere. From fairy tales to stories to novels to movies to songs.
Yeah.
It's about someone else doing for you what you could do and should do for yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, Glenn, you're up next, and then I'll go. This one is I learned to not be in a relationship without each person loving themselves.
I've got nothing to add. I think it's just so obvious.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But Stephanie, we were just having in chat was interesting because I've just asked. I'm not sure Stephanie asked. I just asked her. She mentioned about the you could probably read it, and I'll read it. If I myself still was in that relationship who did not love himself, it would have still had the same outcome unless I chose to look away from the start. Then we talked about red flags, and the question is, did you not see the red flags, or do you not know what they look like?
Yeah.
So that really applies to what does a person who loves themselves like. Same sort of thing. You've got to identify these things before
Yeah.
once again, it's that same process of going through the process of getting experience. Really, that's what I'm trying to. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's.
Yeah, and so my answer to this would be, yeah, if you're not in a relationship with someone that doesn't love yourself already, don't. If you don't love yourself, work at the Jen had implied this earlier. Work on yourself first. Ask if you're a believer. Ask God to help you learn from Him how much He loves you. I did this. Asked Him first. I did it backwards, and I've said this before, but I asked Him to show me His love for other people. Came from a song. I forget who it's by, but it's like, "Give me your eyes for just 1 second." It's a great song. I still love it. And so I started praying that, show me again, because I feel like I had learned how to do that as a kid, and then I got pretty beat up by the world, and I'm going over the same old ground in some ways. We've talked about some of this, but it's not that I forgot how to love. I just got so covered up with all the garbage and not being able to trust people. And of course, I learned that why would I expect people to trust me when I didn't trust myself? I didn't fully love myself. How is that even possible? I mean, you can't expect something from someone else that you're not even willing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
That's a fact. So again, if you don't love yourself, don't even worry about relationships right now. That's my advice to you. But I thought of an interesting question. What if you're already in a relationship and you've gone through self-discovery and you've realized that you don't love yourself in the relationship and the person you're with doesn't love yourself?
Themselves, you mean?
Yeah, I'm saying you don't love yourself and they don't love themselves. I mean, you're already in the relationship or marriage or whatever, then what do you do? Again, the same, in my opinion, the answer to that, the same rule applies. You have to work on yourself first, regardless of what the other person does or does not do.
Yeah.
You're only responsible for yourself. You can only be responsible for yourself. So you have to work on yourself first, and then hope that the other person does. But if they don't, then you have to decide, how much of that you're going to put up with, because you can't go back and change. If you've gotten into a relationship from a place of not loving yourself, and obviously you chose someone that doesn't love themselves either, it's easy to think, well, we're in the same boat, so it evens itself out, like Jen's saying, you complete me. Well, two dysfunctional halves don't make a whole.
But there is a symbiotic relationship going on there.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not
Yeah.
symbiotic in some way. I'm saying it doesn't make a whole. Two dysfunctional people don't make a whole person.
It does not.
So that's the only point I wanted to make about that. And the comment, Glenn read Stephanie's comment, which was great. So that's all we have for now. Nathan says, Jace, I've always felt like asking God that question is a bit redundant. I always felt God would say, I went to the cross. Didn't you? Oh, didn't I, you ungrateful twat? I hope you're joking, but it's interesting the way people see God sometimes, that he would even say that. Jesus was a little sarcastic to the Pharisees, but he was never sarcastic, in my opinion, or mean-spirited to anyone else other than the Pharisees. I don't think, I understand where you're coming from. I don't think it's redundant. I feel like if you have any question, or if you don't love yourself, not you personally, Nathan, but anybody, if you're struggling with this area, I believe God wants you to have that discussion with him. I don't feel like any questions to God are redundant. I feel like with his mercy and patience, he's willing to answer your questions. He's willing to walk through them with you. He understands more than you do what it's like to be you. He made you. He knows you better than you know yourself. So to me, there's not ever a redundant question with God, especially as to the nature of his love for you. Yes, he did prove his love by sending his son. But for some people, it just doesn't break through their own dysfunction, their own wall that has been set up either by their parents, by the world, by themselves, however the wall got set up.
Yeah.
People have a wall around themselves, and it's difficult to feel God's love.
And you know what? I think in that case, I think out a parent who's healthy, of course, and how much joy they get out of reminding their children how much they love them.
Yeah,
And I feel like God's the same way. He
good
is
point.
okay with reminding you, not, through so many things, his
Yeah,
word, through life,
yeah,
things he allows to come, friends, all kinds of things.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Thank God that he didn't just stop. I mean, what he did was fantastic, and yes, it was a great way to show love. But thank God that he did not stop there. That he continues to show us how much he loves us in our lives, over and over. Excuse me, I gotta get a drink of water. Sorry about that. Throat was getting a little dry.
How dare you,
How
sir?
dare I? Hold on. Okay. Hope that answered your question, Nathan. I would be glad to talk to you about this more. Personally, if you had an interest in that. I feel very strongly about this, that people often view God in the way that they were raised by their own parents, and they shouldn't, but it's difficult not to. I hear, and I'm not going to go on very long about this. I just want to make this one point. I hear people talk about, they have conversations with themselves and say, God would say this to me in this situation. And a lot of times what I hear is the way that they talk to themselves from the perspective of God is this angry version of God that is just accusing and hurtful and shaming and guilting. And frankly, I feel like that's the fault of a lot of pastors and churches out there that have represented God in that way. It doesn't hurt to have churches represent God as this angry fire and brimstone God that's just waiting to point the finger at someone and send them straight to hell. I would use your own point, Nathan, about God sending his son. Does that sound like someone that wants to send everyone to hell? Does that sound like that's his desire? And you're not saying this, Nathan. I'm just using your point. I would argue that he, by sending his son, he did show his love for us. But he doesn't stop there. He continues to go on and on and on. This is my opinion, in my life at least. He continues to show me in so many different ways how much he loves me. He doesn't just stop. So that's all I want to say about that. Okay, so I think we answered that one. I answered. Yep. Okay. Next one. I learned to not be in a relationship where trust is lacking and my words are not believed. I learned to not be in a relationship where trust is lacking and my words are not believed. You're up, Jen. Go ahead.
Gosh, these are so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is pretty cut and dry, although I could see how somebody might be snowed on this one. But it's like, what kind of relationship would that be where someone doesn't trust your word?
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds like hell, and
Yeah.
almost like a cyclical hell,
Mm-hmm.
where it would just be a cycle. And it's also denying your truth. It's denying your reality, and in a huge way.
Sure.
For you to know you're speaking truth and someone to be questioning it all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah, good point.
That's just like, it hurts my brain and my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that.
Okay. I'll go next on that one. I learned to not be in a relationship where trust is lacking and my words are not believed. I'll address the first part first. If the person doesn't trust you, what are you doing? Like, how can any person stay in a relationship with someone that constantly doesn't trust them? I wouldn't be able to live like that. Um, Maybe my ex didn't trust me in some ways, I guess. I don't know. I've never really thought about it, but it didn't seem like that was the particular issue. There were probably many other issues, but that wasn't one of them. For me, again, as we were talking about earlier with the affirmative ones, I can't be around someone that doesn't trust me. I'm okay, especially if it's not something about me personally, but something else. Like I used flat earth, for example. It doesn't matter to me whether people believe that or not. Doesn't bother me a bit. That's a good example. But if it's something else that is about me as a person, some kind of truth that I'm passing along to them, and they don't believe me, I can't do it. I can't subject myself to living a life like that with a person. So kind of add to that, my words are not believed. Yeah, they don't trust you and they don't believe you. Those two things in the same place. Trust, just the first one's enough. Someone doesn't trust me, that's enough. I don't need even to worry about the other thing. They're similar, I guess, in some ways. But if they don't believe me, they don't believe in me. That's a big one for me. I grew up with parents that they would sometimes say they believed in me, you can do it and whatever, but it was only related to things that they wanted me to do, not things I wanted to do. If it was something I wanted to do and they didn't have any interest in supporting me in doing it, then I didn't get the affirmative on them believing in me. I know that Jen believes in me. She tells me all the time, and it's not just words. She shows me in many ways whether that she believes me. I believe God believes in me. I believe God knows me more than I know myself, and I'm the one that's the problem, not him. And so he's working with me on believing in myself more and more, and he never gives up. I really believe that. I feel that he never gives up. He continues to work and work and work and work, and sometimes it's difficult, but he does it. So my answer to that is definitely absolutely great that you've learned that. It's a big thing to learn. Yeah, you can't waste your time with anyone that doesn't believe in you. How about you, Glenn? I learned to not be in a relationship where trust is lacking and my words are not believed.
Yeah, it's like the car that gets crashed into a tree. One person says, "You smashed my car up," and you say, I didn't smash it up. I wasn't driving." Where do you go with that? That's a dead end right there and then. It's
dead
over.
end. Yep.
Yeah.
End of story. Thanks.
Perfectly said.
Absolutely. Okay, and I see one message in caps. I thought he trusted me up until the relationship was over, but see now he never did. Yeah. Unfortunately, the term hindsight is 2020. That's a very popular saying because it's true. Sometimes you can't see it in the relationship, but I bet you'll see it now. I bet you're already, Stephanie, I bet you're already seeing red flags in people. That's just my guess. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I think. And you'll never allow this to happen again. That's my hope, that you learned enough from this. I believe God allowed it to happen, to take place, to help bring you to this point. And he used people, people to help you learn that.
Yeah.
Then Nathan says, "Jay's so true. I'm big on if you say you're going to do something, do it. I don't believe people that use oaths or bargaining statements. Good sign they're not going to do what they say." Yeah, that happens everywhere. I agree with you, Nathan. Okay. Glenn. Oh, Glenn answered. Okay, we all answered this one.
Yep.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 more. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. Okay. I learned to not waste my energy on a person who I know will exhaust and hurt me. I'm underlining this one too. I could underline all these actually. I learned to not waste my energy on a person who I know will exhaust and hurt me. You're up, Jen.
Say that last part again. You broke up.
Oh, sure. I'll say the whole thing again. I learned to not waste my energy on a person who I know will exhaust and hurt me.
Yeah, that's huge. Because
Mhm.
then you're cutting it off from the front. When you start seeing signs of somebody being that kind of person, you're just
Mhm.
cutting it off and not. Um, that is huge. Some people have a way of really getting you on the carousel, like luring you in to the crazy, and it
Sure,
just goes around and around and around.
sure,
And it can be um, one of those things where it's a tactic to just wear down your defenses, wear down your boundaries, wear down your self-esteem, all of these things. And especially when you're healing and learning all of these amazing things, Stephanie, that's um, I think there's a vulnerability that you feel in that new space when you're trying to
sure.
use these new tools and these new eyes, and new, senses, because you're trying to learn how to sense red flags and stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's just really important to cut it off at the pass,
Yeah,
because it can be very exhausting. It's just not good for you.
yeah,
Really not good for people.
yeah. Learning from your mistakes is good because you can see it fully, but preemptive learning is way better. So you
Yeah.
learn, and then you, like what Jen's saying, you cut it off before it ever happens. You don't allow it to ever happen again. What about you, Glenn? I learned to not waste my energy on a person who I know will exhaust and hurt me.
I'm not into relation stress in any form, hence,
Right.
not a chance.
Not a
Out of
chance.
there.
Right. For you.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah. So here's the thing on this energy thing, and we're not talking about a mystical kind of new agey and what's the energy on you, man? Blue. We're talking about we all have certain levels of energy, and I think there's enough things going on in the world right now that take energy for you to get up every day and go to work or whatever it is that people do. It takes enough energy to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So imagine on top of all that, you come home to or are in a relationship with someone every day that just they're energy suckers. They're basically energy
Vampires.
vampires. They
Yeah.
are. Whether you see it or not, that's what they do. In terms of narcissists, that's what they're there for. They're there to sap your supply. They get supply from you, and it's not positive supply. They're not cheering you on when you do something good. That's not happening.
Mm-mm.
So it's trying to get you to the point where they control you and suck your energy dry, leaving you with nothing. They leave you an empty husk if they can.
Yep.
So these are many times emotional vampires, and that's their job. That's what they're there for, and they will do their job. Guaranteed, they will do it.
Yep.
So for me, the minute I find out someone's an energy zapper instead of a mutual exchange of energy, I'm out. Just like Glenn said, I'm out. Um, Jen and I are like little generators that that give off energy, and we take in energy from each other. That's what I believe, and that's the way a healthy relationship should work. When her energy is zapped, 9 times out of 10, I'm giving my energy to her to help her with her discrepancy, and she does the same thing for me. If I'm having a bad day and my energy's low, my love tank seems to be depleted, or not. That's not the right word. Not love
I
tank.
love that. I love that though.
Okay.
Love
If
tank.
it's depleted, then Jen has plenty of love overflowing, and she pours it out on me, which always helps every single time. So that's kind of the scenario that I see as the most helpful for relationships. You don't have a taker, you have a mutual giver, a mutual
Yep.
give and take.
Both are givers.
Right. Yep. I learned to not be obliged to justify my actions to anyone. I'll go first on this one. I learned to not be obliged to justify my action. Isn't it tiring? Isn't it tiring to have to justify? And I've
And
done
explaining.
that, explaining. My sister told me, this was a couple years back, but I was very upset with her for telling me this, but I started, at least she told me, and I listen to people when they talk to me, and I really try to consider if what they said was true or not. I don't just pass it off. I'm glad I don't do that. So I started hearing myself in conversations with her sometimes, justifying my actions. Now, I will say, even now, looking back, there's a reason why I did this. I did this because I was in a relationship with people that didn't believe me. So I took it upon myself to continue to try to get my point across, because I had developed the expectation that pretty much, not everything I say, but in certain areas, they don't believe me. And so I felt like I had to justify my actions. And it was a complete and total waste of time. It took me a long time to learn that. I did it for a long time. Again, I am the black sheep, the scapegoat of my family. And I played that role for a long time. And I many times tried to break out of that role by not being around them. But I learned that if I'm going to be around my family, I have to give up that role. Doesn't matter what they do, I have to quit playing that role. And that's where I'm at. I'm in the place of not trying to prove to them anything, not trying to justify my actions, not trying to get them to understand why I do or believe certain things that I believe and do. They can believe what they want. My belief in myself is not predicated on whether they believe me or trust me, or whether they accept my actions or not.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is a big one for me. I'm glad that you're learning it, Stephanie, and anyone that's trying to learn this, don't do it. Just don't justify your actions to anyone. It's pointless. What about you, Jen?
It makes me think about over explaining. And it, for me at least, it was a situation of me trying to convince that what I was feeling or what I did or what I said was the right thing to do or feel or say.
Mhm.
But also it was connected to trying to get the other person to agree with me in order for it to be okay for me.
Yeah, sure.
It's really interesting. So
Mhm.
yeah, being able to stand within yourself and tight to your reality and your truth. Um, yeah, this is a perfect one to not oblige or justify your actions to anyone,
Right.
except God. In my
Yeah. Well,
case, God.
you don't have to do that with God either, because He knows what your true actions are anyway. Yeah.
That's very true.
So we don't have to do that. But I understand the desire to do things. You don't have to explain things to God. You don't have to explain anything to Him at all. He just wants a
Yeah.
relationship with us.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this is a big lesson for me. And it was a hard one to break, because I've done it, the over explaining thing. I've done it so often. I'm in a really good place with that now. I don't do it. If I hear myself start doing it because it's such a habit, even when I may not even need to, I've done it in situations where the person believes me already. I'm still explaining. I'm still justifying. Not anymore. So
Yeah,
that's good.
that
What
is
about
good.
you? Thank you. What about you, Glenn? I learned to not be obliged to justify my actions to anyone.
I know my answers are repetitious, not a chance. No way.
Yeah.
End of story. It's not doing it. No,
Yeah.
no, get lost. Get
Next.
lost.
Yeah. Now, I would say that this justifying your actions to anyone, that doesn't mean that, like, if someone says you hurt me, that you don't, uh, you know,
Oh, not
explain.
at all. Not at
Yeah.
all. That's a different circumstances
Yeah.
where you would listen to what the person has to say and be
Sure.
sensitive that if this is their truth, well, you've got, in my opinion, an obligation to sit there and listen to it.
Yep.
And if you have hurt them and they believe they're hurt, well, it's up to you to do something about it. I'm really just, well, I think we're dealing with the more extreme cases where
Sure.
people are, yeah, as you're saying, this is not in a in a healthy relationship, it's not about obligation. It's the fact that you would do it automatically because
Yep.
you're sensitive to the other person and the connection.
Yep, absolutely. You got it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great points. Okay. Almost done, guys. Next one. I learned to not require permission from anyone to speak to whomever I choose. I learned to not require permission from anyone to speak to whomever I choose. What do you think, Jen?
I think that's a fantastic motto.
Yeah.
Being the keeper of your own self.
Yeah.
And that's a control issue. If somebody's trying to
Yep.
dictate who you're talking to, you're your
Yeah.
own person. You can
Yeah.
talk to whoever you want to talk to.
Yep.
Now, if you're in a relationship and someone has a little bit of an issue with someone that you're talking to, it'd be great for them to speak up in a loving and kind way and
Sure.
share their feelings and, not over explain, but talk about why maybe they're getting these feelings coming up. And then you chat about it as a couple or as friends or family,
Yeah.
and discuss it, and hopefully the other person will validate your feelings and maybe a boundary needs to be made. Maybe there's a disagreement. Well, you know what? I don't really agree with you
Yeah.
having, I understand that you have these uncomfortable feelings about me
Yeah.
talking to somebody, but
Mhm.
I don't see a problem and I trust myself.
Yeah.
There's so many ways it can go healthily,
Sure.
but
Sure.
if somebody's trying to dictate who you talk to, nope, nope. See ya. Hit the road, like Glenn said.
Hit the road, Jack. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn? You don't need
Trust issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I just couldn't imagine for a second that I would go and check Sandra's phone or look who she's talking to on Facebook,
Right.
or it's just too ludicrous to even contemplate. But I know
Yeah.
some people do it. Why do they do it? For
Yeah.
their own insecurity.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you've got trust, this becomes it's just rubbish. It's irrelevant.
Yep.
Yep.
I told Jen really early on in our relationship, because I've seen this happen with people, like your phone is your phone, and I've even heard people say, yeah, he actually looked into my phone, like it was some kind of breach of privacy or whatever, and you're in a relationship. I told Jen my password for my phone and told her, I don't care if you look at my phone anytime you want. You get on my computer's open. She can get on my computer and use it for whatever she wants. And part of that is because I know that I'm not doing anything that I'd get in trouble for or that I shouldn't be doing. She can look at my history. I don't clear my history very often. I should, though, because it builds up over time or whatever. But I am completely transparent. This is not bragging in any way. I'm just saying that's how much I trust her. I trust her, and I want her to trust me. So these things are set in place. If ever she has a question about anything, it's already open to begin with. So she didn't have to ask me. If she is concerned about something, then she can assuage her fear. She doesn't fear, but I'm just saying, if she were to, then everything's open. She doesn't have to come to me for permission. And also, one more thing about that, in a marriage situation, I've told her this before, and I believe she believes it. What's mine is hers. I don't have anything. If I wanted things to be private, just mine, then I'd be single still. When you're in a relationship with someone, there's no such thing as this is mine and that's yours.
Yeah.
That means money, regardless of whether she earns more money than I do, and or I earn more money, or this is my money and that's her money, and whatever. And not just money, anything. My food is her food, my drinks are her drinks, whatever. It's all our things. That's just the way I look at it. So there's never any jealousy or anything like that. I take her kratom off, which I feel guilty about, but she doesn't go through it as fast as I do. So I run out and then I borrow some from her. So there's that. But she never gets mad at me, which is just amazing. She's just a wonderful, accepting person. So did everyone answer that one? What'd you say, babe?
I said, thanks, babe.
You're welcome. Did everyone answer? I think everyone did. Okay. We're coming down to the end here. That was the one more. Okay, this is the last one, guys, and then we'll say goodnight to everybody. We're doing good. We usually try to end about 11:30 Eastern time, and looks like we're heading that direction. I'd get done faster if I wasn't over-explaining that we're almost done.
That's funny.
I learned that it is not acceptable to be spoken to in a hurtful and degrading manner. I learned that it is not acceptable to be spoken to in a hurtful and degrading manner. Jen,
Huge.
how's that one seem to you?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that's big.
I could say so much about this, but my brain is going blank. I think my brain's tired.
Oh, okay.
But I'll say that when you start accepting treatment like that, it says a lot about yourself to the other person.
Sure.
Hopefully, it should say a lot to you about the other person that's doing the hurting and
Yeah.
talking. But sometimes we get stuck in these places where it's just hard to see. There's like a fog.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so grateful that Stephanie's gotten to this point where she's going to refuse to take any kind of treatment like that. It's not okay.
Yeah. It's not okay. People do this all the time. I mean, how many times you've been in a restaurant or a bar or just whatever in the store, and you're hearing someone dress someone up and down like this and saying hurtful and degrading things.
Yeah,
It's reprehensible.
it really is.
It's just not good. And it's often difficult. Sometimes I want to step in, want to say, don't talk to her like that, especially parents to their kids.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that really, really sets me off. It's just not good. But in any case, whether it's a kid or whether it's a wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, it is unacceptable to talk to anyone like that.
Yeah.
So I applaud you, Stephanie, and anyone else who has made this decision for themselves. And again, regardless of what happened before or whether you've accepted this or not, today, I mean, I think you've already decided this, Stephanie, but today, for anyone, there is a choice to not allow people to talk to you like this anymore.
Yeah.
Now, well, with all the and I say this tongue in cheek, but all the psychobabble stuff about, well, you're telling the person how much you can speak that way to them because you're accepting it for yourself. I mean, that may be true, but even despite that, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
It is the person's fault. If they're talking to you like that, it is their responsibility too. They shouldn't be doing that. But if they are, then yeah, ask yourself the question, am I allowing this? Am I allowing them to do that? You may be. And if you are, stop. And if you're not allowing it anymore and they're still continuing to do that, then, that's the exit sign. There's your sign. And it's an exit sign.
There's your sign.
There's your sign. Get out of the relationship. It's not right for you. Certainly not right for me. Personally, I can't stand to be around people. I mean, the minute someone's degrading to me, whether it's a stranger or someone else, I'm done. The conversation's over, regardless
Bye-bye.
of who it is. Yeah. Because I surround myself with people that talk nicely to me.
Yeah.
Because
And that, yeah.
Go ahead.
Good.
No, you're
I was
fine.
just going to say that is a great way to continue your road of healing. When you start surrounding yourself with healthy people, that too helps you see the dysfunction or see the red flags.
Oh yeah.
Because then it's like so jarring because you're not used to it anymore.
Yes.
It stands out like a bump red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jen. When you do surround yourself with more healthy people, it's like a guide stone. Like I've even used Jen for an example of now that I understand what love is and I have someone that treats me the way I really have always wanted to be treated. Why would I get into any relationship with anyone else that didn't treat me in that same way? Why would I? I wouldn't. So it's a guidepost. It's an example. And I have a few people. Glenn is one of them, and Jen, and my friend Marcus, who I've known since I was a little kid. Those are a few people that honestly, they treat me with respect and dignity, and it has been really good over the past couple of years for me to see that and for that to be exemplified in my life.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in that place, regardless of what else I did in the past, I will not allow myself to be in relationships that aren't like that. It's modeled. It's a good model for me, and I'm very grateful for it. So that's my part. Don't do it. Again, I know Glenn's answer, but let's go ahead and hear it anyway. I learned that it is not acceptable to be spoken to in a hurtful and degrading manner. Glenn?
Of course. But I also, something came into my head that where we take that a step further when someone belts the crap out of you. That when you get, use an example, a guy that comes home from the pub drunk and he belts you up. And then in the morning when he sobers up, says, "Oh, I'm sorry I hit you. I really do love you." That's the same kind of thing. It's just garbage. You don't come home and belt your wife up under any circumstances.
No.
So, yeah, not acceptable.
No.
Nope.
And you've even heard the classic, "Oh, look, you made me do it." So not only are they coming back and saying, "Oh, I love you," or whatever, or a parent that belts you and says, "I love you. That's I'm doing this because I love you. This is going to hurt me more than it does you." Yeah.
Or I promise I won't do it again until tonight. That is, yeah, right.
Yeah, until later. Yeah, don't ever believe that. If a person has to say, "I'll never do this again," then there's already a problem. They shouldn't have done it the first time. I don't have any patience for either a man or a woman that hit each other in a relationship.
Mm-mm.
It's unacceptable. I would hit myself in the face before I hurt Jen physically or emotionally. I would do it to myself first. And I love myself, and so I'm not going to be doing that purposefully. So
that's good.
yeah, I don't go around hitting myself in the face, just so everybody knows. That's something I've ever had an issue with. Okay, that's it. That's it for these ones. This was great.
This is really good.
2 weeks in a row, we had the last one was more a narrative that we went line by line and talked about, and this one had bullet points that we could address. I am just loving these broadcasts, and I hope you guys are too. But if you don't, that's okay. I'm loving it. It's about me. This is about whether I like it or not. I like it.
That's hilarious.
Thank you. Thanks. I hope everyone else thinks it's hilarious too. I'm just sort of joking. Jan says, "Good to know, Jason." Janet gets it.
She gets you.
She gets me. All right. One more. This wasn't part in the green, but I love this. Who turns around a lifetime in a couple of weeks? Nobody I know, that's for sure. Yeah. This is some people, and I talked to Jen about this, and I mentioned it to Glenn. He seemed to think this was a good point. I think that we have, as people, and now I look at it from a Christian's perspective, that God puts everything into us that we need to get through this life. Our personality he gave us, our gifts, our talents, our abilities, whatever it is, it's in us already. And it's not so much as that one day we wake up and then all of a sudden we're able to do all this miraculous stuff. This stuff is locked up. A lot of times in this broken, fallen world, we have these things buried. And whether it's by parents or friends or institutions or schools or
ourselves,
however it happens, we get covered up by these things and we lose a part of ourselves. Not totally lost. It's still there, but it's covered up. So what seems like someone turning around things in a very short period of time really is they just unlocked it. They found the right key to fit the right door and opened up that door, and all that stuff was, they find it. They go in the room and like, oh, I didn't know this was here. Oh, this is self-respect. Oh, look over here. Oh, this is self-worth. All this stuff is in there.
Yep.
It's a matter of shifting through the detritus and the garbage and getting rid of it. And then what's left is what you keep. What's left is all the positive things. Sometimes it takes people longer than others, and I get that. Don't ever punish yourself for how long it's taken you to get to a certain point.
Yeah.
I tell Jen all the time, once she discovers something, she's on it. Like she's like working through it, but she has some things that are taking longer to the physical ramifications of things that have happened in the past. It's more difficult than it is for you to change the way that you treat yourself or what you're accepting in your life. That's harder to do.
Yeah.
The emotional flashbacks and things like that. That's way more difficult. You can't really force that to happen sooner. And I wish you could. It's excruciating to watch someone struggle with that kind of thing. But I'm just saying, just whatever situation you're in when you're working on yourself or doing things, trying to change the way that you see yourself and make better decisions for your life moving forward. Just give yourself grace and know that it takes time to do that. And just be kind to yourself. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
If you've been
And patient.
and be patient. If you've been beating yourself up, quit. And just stop. Stop doing it. Now I'm very blessed to have, like I said, a few people that are encouraging and stuff. I'm not having to do recovery alone. But if you're alone, there are people out there that will want to help you. And I would say that we three, I think that's proper grammar, are definitely here to help in any way we can. Just like Stephanie has reached out and doing this in a very public way. And I think it's been beneficial to her. It's certainly been beneficial to us. And that's the way it's supposed to work. You be transparent. You are willing to share parts of yourself that could be considered very private. And you're actually helping other people, even while you're still learning.
Yes.
And that's, we pay this stuff forward. You know, whatever abuse or situations you've been in, by going through it and sharing that experience with other people, there are other people that have experienced the very same thing. Maybe their story is a little different, okay? But some of the things you've gone through, someone else has experienced it too. And one of the other reasons why I've enjoyed these broadcasts so much, because this is exactly what I wanted from the beginning. True Story Live. The name is True Stories from People Live. That's what this is. And I couldn't be happier about the format, especially since we came back. It's just wonderful. And I have learned a lot from it. And you guys are a blessing coming to the chat and listening. And if you're listening to playback, appreciate you being here and listening. And the best thing you can do, obviously, a like helps on the thing, on the channel. But also, if you enjoy anything about this broadcast, just tell other people. We're not trying to be a big blockbuster channel. It's not ever going to happen. But we do want more people so we can have more stories, so we can have more sharing and more conversations. That's what well, I'll speak for myself. That's what I thrive on. I thrive on seeing what you guys talk about in the chat, and Stephanie sharing her story with us. And we have several weeks of content based on her willingness to do that. So thank you again, Stephanie, for doing that and having the courage to share this with us. It's fantastic. Next week in Resurrection, we ask, how might we turn cycles around, amend one's mindset and subsequent actions? Is it even possible to turn around? How might we change? What does one have to do to facilitate change? What guidelines can we use to assess our progress? And I'm going to share this quote again because this is great. In my opinion, love is unconditional. There's no requirement for any person to earn love. To anyone experiencing a connection not freely offered or given, please consider that as decidedly not love. So the final word tonight goes to ST. I do not have to accept any choices given to me. The only choice needed to be made is people can say what they wish to say respectfully, or we will not continue to have any more conversations. And that ends that one. All right, so we'll go over to Glenn first. Glenn, first of all, great write-up. Appreciate you doing the producing as always. And any comments that you want to make, and say goodbye to the peoples for me, please.
I'll just say good night and thank everyone for being so forthcoming. I think it's just looking in the chat and just listening, reading, it really does rub off on others. So
Yeah.
everything you share is so beneficial. You may not realize it, but I think it's just amazingly beneficial. So thank you, everyone. Great to be here. See you next week.
Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, this will continue next week, so we have a lot to look forward to. Jen, the lovely Jen, please, any comments and say goodbye to the peoples.
This is just a wonderful show, and Stephanie, thank you so much for letting us dive into your head, and we're so proud of you. We're so very, very proud of you, and proud of you guys in the chat for looking at yourselves and sharing and supporting each other, encouraging each other. It's just awesome to see, and makes my heart swell with happiness and joy. And I'm falling asleep. I'm tired.
Oh no.
Great show, guys. I can't wait for next week. I'm always looking forward to this time spending it with you guys, and
that's
and
nice.
Glenn's write-ups is just wonderful. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys. Okay. So we'll be here again next Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you have any suggestions or comments for future shows or a topic yourself, we are accepting topics. We are accepting letters if you want to do a similar thing as to what Stephanie has done, or tell your story in some way and you would like us to do a broadcast about it. That's exactly what we're here to do. So please send them along to me at truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. You have a kind thing to say or a not so kind thing to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not accepting any hurtful or degrading comments. No, I hope that if you send criticism, it's constructive criticism. Yeah. So just send them along to me. And again, if you want to send something to Glenn or Jen, just put that in the subject line and I'll make sure and forward it to them. Okay. And we love you guys. Thank you. If you've been here in the chat, I love your dialogues and conversations. I appreciate every single one of you who's here. And if you're listening to playback, we appreciate you too. If you're listening to the playback, again, please tell other people and try to come join us in the chat. When we started this whole thing, I was not much of a chat person to begin with. And that's changed a lot. While I'm hosting the show, I don't say a whole lot because then I have to mute my mic, and so I'm not clicker clacking on the keys and stuff. But
like some people.
Yeah, I enjoy like some people. I enjoy chat a lot more than I used to, and I see the benefit of it now. Whereas before, I was like, I didn't think there was much value in the chat itself. It's just like, let's just do the broadcast. It's not about that, but it is about that here. Okay, that's it for us, and we will see you guys next week. I hope everyone has a great week, and thank you for listening tonight and for being a part of the broadcast. So see you next week. Until then, good night and God bless.